Falling in love is so magical, and one of the greatest feelings in the world. Every moment spent with your special someone is a fairy tale come true. When you have it, you don't want it to end. But then you discover their little but annoying habits, weird quirks, and inconvenient gestures. All these pop the magical bubble carefully formed between the two of you. You would be thinking, why can't love be always flawless and magical? The reality is, there's no perfect love. Only the one that endures past imperfections. This is a painful lesson that our protagonist will learn. Ethan Cooper reminisces about his childhood crush. To his young and impressionable mind, Emily Atkins was the epitome of perfection. A top student and an achiever, it seems like Emily could do no wrong. She would receive recognition and awards and remain humble. The only communication that existed between Ethan and Emily was that awkward exchange in the playground. Ethan approached the girl, holding a consumed lollipop. Then he blurted the words, "Look, I lick a leprechaun." He didn't know why he said it, but he knew it wouldn't make him look cool in front of her. Soon, Emily Atkins left the school and the town. But this did not diminish his strong infatuation towards her. Even in the present, Ethan can't find a serious and decent girlfriend. He makes lists of what he doesn't like about the women he meets. Things like different sports teams or picking teeth after a meal have become deal breakers to him. His friend, Sam, points out the bottom line of every list he makes. Those women are not Emily and will never be her in Ethan's eyes. He's become a nitpicky person that also rubs off on his sister, Lexi. While visiting Lexi in the flower shop where she's working, Ethan convinces her to break up with her boyfriend. Things like wrong movie choices should not keep her from dating a loser. Ethan says she's better off with another man. But as much as Ethan is good at giving love advice, he's not much better off when it comes to his finances. He and Sam are renting their apartment, and their rent is due. Tully, their landlord, is already asking for their payment, because his wife needs it for her facial. It's just unfortunate that Ethan got fired from his job, and Sam's salary is delayed. Ethan goes back to the flower shop to see if he can find a part-time job there. While arranging flowers, Mrs. Taylor comes in to get her flower pot. While Lexi is preparing it, Mrs. Taylor turns to Ethan to congratulate him. She got the news from his mother that Lexi and her boyfriend broke up because of his urging. Therefore, he might help with her problem with her daughter, Veronica. Mrs. Taylor doesn't want her daughter to be with a man who has big ears and no ambition in life. At first, Ethan refuses. But when she offers to pay, he gets interested. After all, he needs the money to pay his rent. Ethan and Mrs. Taylor meet up at a coffee shop to talk about their business. She gives him details about Veronica and her boyfriend, whose name is Zach. Ethan thinks that the best way to break them up is to point out trivial things about the guy. Some small habits or gestures that Mrs. Taylor thinks are annoying about him. So the old woman lists down everything that she knows. She also gives Ethan a dog, so it won't be suspicious if he approaches her daughter. It turns out there's actually no need for the dog. Veronica recognizes him, as they attended the same school when they were young. Of course, Ethan is lukewarm about the meetup, because his focus is to goad Veronica into breaking up with Zach, and then get that promise payment. He pretends to know the boyfriend, then smoothly proceeds to mention his annoying habits. Instantly, Veronica remembers all those little things, like putting a toothpick in his mouth, talking like an immature high school girl, and dancing in public. Soon, Veronica is convinced that Zach is not the one for her. She breaks up with him, then she sends Ethan some heart emojis. It looks like Veronica is pining for him. Ethan doesn't like her, because something about her ticks him off, so he simply avoids meeting her. Mrs. Taylor is so happy about the success of this covert operation. She pays Ethan, then she recommends him to her other friends. Surprisingly, there's a great number of parents who don't like their daughter's boyfriend. And so, Ethan starts his business as a matchbreaker. He interviews the parents to know details about their daughters and their boyfriends. His modus operandi is to research the girl's personality, looks, likes, and dislikes, as well as things about her boyfriend. Then, he'll approach the girl accordingly and create conversations about her relationship, and how she should be looking for other guys who don't have annoying qualities. Sometimes, girls fall for him. So he hires his sister as a pretend girlfriend, to be safe from their unwanted attention. Slowly but steadily, he becomes successful in his endeavors and earns money. His reputation also spreads wide and far, and many clients come to him for help. But soon, he'll meet a client whose daughter will make him question his morality. He meets Ruth, an assertive and well-off single mother, who thinks she's only doing what's best for her daughter. She wants Ethan to make sure her daughter will break up with her boyfriend, named Brian. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with the guy. Ruth simply just doesn't like him. Instead, she wants her daughter to meet Thomas, a lawyer who'll soon become a partner. She tells Ethan that her daughter works for the art gallery in town, and also performs a couple of nights at the Green Lady Lounge every night at 9 p.m. So, Ethan dresses up and prepares to meet this girl. As fate would have it, he finds out that the girl whom he needs to convince to break up with her boyfriend is none other than Emily Atkins. She sings at the lounge with a passionate voice that's perfectly suited for jazz music. Even though there are only a few patrons present, she still captures their attention with her skills. For Ethan, Emily is still as beautiful and ethereal as when they were young. She has grown so much over the years, and his infatuation seems to have become stronger. He approaches Emily, either for his mission, or to simply talk to her. But just like before, his brain still short-circuits every time he talks to his crush. At least he manages to introduce himself and remind her that they were schoolmates before Emily transferred to another town. Nonetheless, the whole interaction is painfully awkward, especially when Ethan elaborates on his fascination with turnips, because Emily dressed like one in one of their school plays. Back at home, he contemplates the recent events. So far, this is the information he has. Emily Atkins is back in town. She works in the art gallery, sings at a jazz lounge, and has a boyfriend. He thinks of multiple strategies to talk to her again. Now that he's hired to make her break up with her boyfriend, he's more motivated to do it. The next day, Ethan visits Emily at the art gallery. He pretends to know some sculptors and their art pieces, but he almost fails at that. Luckily, Emily doesn't notice this, or simply ignores it, even his blunder when he said he misses her. She says she missed being here in town, after being away for so many years. When she asks about his job, Ethan makes a very technical description of what he's doing. He's a consultant who takes dysfunctional systems and disassembles them for diagnosis. Cool way to describe being a matchbreaker. Ethan also covertly asks about her boyfriend Brian, so he can know him better for his job. He takes Sam to accompany him to the gym. There, they see Brian, a big, muscular man who could be any girl's dream guy. If physical appearance is a criterion to win Emily's heart, then it's obvious that Ethan is no match for Brian. He hangs out with him, trying to find a chink in his perfect nice guy armor. He taunts Brian into looking at other girls in the gym. But Brian won't do it, because he's loyal to his girlfriend. Then Ethan tries to talk about finances, insinuating that Brian may be in debt. But he's not an accountant for nothing. He's paid his student loans, and is even done paying for his car. That's a green flag for being responsible. And to top it off, Brian regularly helps at a community soup kitchen to feed the homeless. For the first time, Ethan realizes that he just met a perfect guy. And even if he doesn't want to admit it, Brian and Emily are ideal for each other. In the next scene, we see a formal gathering. One of them, Mitchell, is uncomfortable with his tie. His mother, Donna, walks to him to fix it. She's a helicopter parent who always checks on her son's life, specifically his love life. The father, Wayne, simply watches, but sometimes he wishes Donna would be more lenient with Mitchell. Donna wants her son to mingle with other eligible bachelorettes at the gathering. At least they're all better than what he can find in college. Mitchell doesn't really want to do it, but to please his mother, he talks with girls and dances with them. It's easy to see why Mitchell is not so confident in this area. He acts weird, and his choice of topics is weird, too. Also, he has an iguana, which most people in his social class would find unflattering. He needs someone quirky and who will not judge him for who he is. Thankfully, he finds the right woman. Her name is Trisha, and she's the assigned server for the event. They immediately feel comfortable with each other, laughing at the snotty people who think highly of themselves. At one point, Mitchell invites Trisha to a dance. Unfortunately, Donna sees this. She can't let her son socialize with a lowly waitress. So the next day, Donna and Wayne meet up with Ethan Cooper. According to the grapevine, he's very successful in breaking up daughters with their unwanted boyfriends. Perhaps he can save Mitchell from this unsavory relationship with the server. Wayne thinks that all this is ridiculous, but he knows better than to scoff at his wife. He leaves his calling card to Ethan. To the latter's surprise, Wayne is a record producer with wide connections. No wonder Donna doesn't like the waitress. It stains their image. But Ethan thinks differently. Perhaps he can link Emily to Wayne so she can become a famous singer. Donna concludes their meeting with a warning and a promise. If Ethan messes this up, he'll never have any more clients coming to him. But if he succeeds, Donna will recommend him to other mothers, ensuring that he'll be booked for months. Easy job and instant payment. But at this point, Ethan is starting to wonder whether he should be doing this for a long time. The next day, he comes to Donna's house to meet Mitchell. He's introduced as a confidence coach, to which Mitchell slightly objects. What does he need a confidence coach for? He can surely dress up for himself. Then he gestures towards his get-up. That makes his mother sigh. Inside Mitchell's room, Ethan interviews him about Trisha. Mitchell makes it clear that he doesn't just like her, he loves her. In all his life, Trisha is the only one who makes him feel good about himself. He doesn't need his mother's interference in his relationship. Ethan asks if he's had a date with her. Mitchell says he did, but only through Skype. Ethan convinces him to take Trisha out on a date, in person. That way, he will know if there's anything wrong with her. Mitchell doesn't want to believe that Trisha has some bad traits, but it's not bad to finally go out with her and have fun. As a support, Ethan will bring his girlfriend, so they can have a double date, and Mitchell will feel confident with himself. Ethan goes to his sister and asks if she can pose again as his girlfriend. Lexi agrees, but only if her brother will raise her commission. During the times that she helps in her brother's schemes, she receives 10% of the payment. Not bad, considering that the extra money helps with the bills. But Ethan is stingy with her payment. For now, Lexi accepts the request. But if he asks for her help again, he must raise her compensation. The siblings meet the couple in a restaurant. At first glance, Mitchell and Trisha are very eccentric. and surprisingly compatible with each other. They both order the kids' meal from the menu, but they don't find it unsuitable for their ages. Ethan and Lexi hide their uncertainty about breaking up the couple, but they have a plan. They call it the bleak future approach, where they point out their incompatibilities in the future. Lexi starts by comparing Mitchell and Trisha to puzzle pieces. Not similar, but perfectly fits each other. That's all well and good. But when it comes to practical matters of the relationship, that's when things go a little sideways. Neither Mitchell nor Trisha knows about tax forms, or cooking, or how to keep a lawn. Slowly, the couple seems to think about their roles, and if they still mean anything in connection to their compatibility. While taking a break, the siblings think they have already been successful in breaking up the couple. But when they go back to their seats, the couple seems to be more in love than ever before. They both claim they love stargazing, which only proves their compatibility. Who cares about tax reforms and lawn keeping when they can look at the stars every night? Ethan thinks of other ways to break up Mitchell and Trisha. In the meantime, he visits Emily in the gallery. She tells him her dreams of writing her own songs and becoming a singer. Ethan remembers Wayne, but it doesn't feel right to tell her about him right now. Perhaps soon, when he's done messing with other people's love lives. Then they see a sculpture titled Love. He shows his skepticism about it, especially since all he can see are tangles of coppers and colorful wires. But Emily disagrees. She says the sculpture is the perfect representation of love. Up close, the sculpture looks messy and defective. But when viewed from a distance and as a whole, the essence of love is present. Ethan is still unconvinced. She just laughs at him, then she invites him to the Green Lady Lounge on Thursday, where she's scheduled to sing. He decides to go, only to find Brian there, looking at his Emily with love in his eyes. Ethan is then reminded of how perfect they are for each other, and knowing that he's hired to break them apart causes conflicting emotions inside him. His thoughts about his mission become more troublesome when Emily invites him on a double date. She wants to meet his girlfriend. So Ethan informs Lexi about another upcoming job. Lexi is visiting her brother at his apartment, and is currently lounging on the couch, oblivious to Sam's arm around her. Lexi is still insisting on her raise. She wants a 30% increase so she can have enough capital to start her business. Ethan can't give in. He asks her to wait for the moment that Mitchell and Trisha will break up. Then he can have enough money to raise her commission. Well, Lexi won't give in either. Unless she gets her raise, she won't help her brother at all. She leaves the apartment. Sam asks Ethan where can he find someone willing to be a pretend girlfriend. He has an idea, but he doesn't like it. He goes to Veronica and asks her to pose as his girlfriend. So that night, they ride the yacht owned by Ethan's father. The atmosphere looks romantic for the four of them, and Veronica is so happy to be with Ethan. She has been crushing on him since they met again, and is hoping she can get a chance to be with him. Emily asks how they met. At first, Ethan is unsure whether he'll make up a story or stick with the general truth. But Veronica has other things on her mind. Apparently, it sounds more romantic if their story starts from childhood. In a way, they've indeed been schoolmates before, but Ethan doesn't remember that. Veronica tells them how Ethan offered her a seat during their school field trip. Then they met again years later, while walking their dogs. She makes it sound like they were destined to meet again, to make her realize that Ethan was the one for her. She even says that sometimes, people are lucky enough to get a second chance with the right one. After answering the questions, she throws it back to Emily and Brian. Brian tells them he met Emily at a gym and offered to be her spotter. Veronica remarks how coincidences like that can make you meet your love, just like with her and Ethan. Then she proceeds to express her undying love for him, in a cringy way. Ethan can't help but let his cynicism show, but she takes this as a challenge. Right there and then, she jumps off the yacht. Everyone is surprised. Veronica urges Ethan to jump right after her, to show his undying love for her. Instead, he throws her a lifesaver. This abruptly ends their double date. Even though Veronica is passionate about her feelings for Ethan, she doesn't miss the hidden spark he has for Emily. To her credit, she's smart enough not to make a big deal out of it. The next day, Ethan meets with Mitchell. The latter tells him how he loves Trisha, and how he thinks she deserves only the best. Then Ethan asks if he thinks he's the best that she deserves. Mitchell gets offended by this, but he suddenly thinks he may not be right for her, after all. Ethan is embarrassed, and apologizes for what he said. But it's too late. A call from Emily saves him from further embarrassment. To his surprise, she informs him that she broke up with Brian. It's been coming on for months, she says. Brian is a good and perfect man, but just not for her. Ethan smirks inside, and thinks it's finally his time. But, as a sign of respect and ethics, he will not push himself onto her. He'll take his time to woo Emily, until she eventually falls for him. He also doesn't take the money from Mrs. Ruth Atkins, who is satisfied with his work. His goal with Emily is too personal. Taking the money for the breakup is already beyond his moral thoughts, especially when he feels like he didn't do anything. For a few days, Ethan is at Emily's side. Of course, he shows himself to her in the name of helping her cope with her breakup. But she doesn't have any inkling how much Ethan has waited for this rare chance. He may have accidentally admitted his deep crush on her while they were riding his father's yacht, but he doesn't push his feelings toward her. After their yacht ride, he accompanies her to her apartment to get something. Just as he's about to decide to ask her out, he sees the state of her apartment, It looks like several tornadoes have ravaged it, with all her clothes and things scattered everywhere. There are unwashed dishes left on the table, and half-eaten food. His perfect Emily seems to have disappeared among the heaps of mess in her apartment. He still asks her out, but he finds out more about her. She likes to eat ice and make a very loud crunching sound. She likes to pop her knuckles and joints and drive recklessly. And to top it off, she likes the 5 Twilight movies. All these little things are trivial, but for Ethan, they're all breaking this perfect image of Emily in his head. He goes to Lexi to ask for advice, but he's too stubborn to listen. She's so exasperated when she finds out her brother even made a list of Emily's annoying habits. So, she asks him what are the things that Ethan has always imagined about Emily that turned out to be true. Ethan enumerates all of them with a smile on his face. Lexi lists them all under the annoying habits section. Then, at the bottom line, she writes the words, "She's Emily," emphasizing that all the traits listed on the paper make up the woman that Ethan has fallen in love with. The next day, they are walking in the park when Emily reveals a specific memory. She remembers a boy who said he licked a leprechaun. It's always been funny to her, that's why the memory stuck. Ethan is so overwhelmed. That one awkward memory he has with the girl he loves has always been something that brings laughter to her. He can't help it. He kisses her, but she pulls away. Emily remembers Veronica and says it's not right for them to do this behind her back. It's like Ethan has woken up and remembers Veronica too. Emily receives a call. It's from a friend who's also brokenhearted. It turns out she's good friends with Trisha, who's hurting right now because Mitchell left her. That's 2 jobs completed back to back for Ethan. He should be happy to be getting a lot of money. But somehow, the check that Donna sends doesn't thrill him at all. He's realizing at last that it might have been better if Mitchell and Trisha were allowed to keep their relationship. Then there are his feelings for Emily. He tells his landlord, Tully, that he's starting to have doubts about her. The landlord says it's only natural, because he's been fantasizing about her until now. But if he loves her, why not go for it? It's a waste of time to let perfectionism get in the way, when he has something real in his life. As Tully says, true love bleaches out the blemishes. Ethan digests this. Then, he decides to do the right thing at last. He calls Sam and asks him to discreetly watch over Emily at the engagement party that's going to happen at the art gallery. He needs to make sure she's not interacting with anyone else for the night. Ethan plans to talk to her and tell her the truth, but first, he needs to straighten things out with Veronica. It doesn't go well. His apology seems to be half-hearted, which only adds to Veronica's sulking. Then he goes straight to the party. Mrs. Atkins finally introduces her daughter to Thomas, and she expects a romantic liaison soon. Donna, Wayne, and Mitchell are also invited to the party. To Mitchell's surprise, Trisha is also there, serving drinks. They're both still reeling from their heartaches. At one point, Emily sits and asks her mother for a compact mirror. While looking for it, she sees her mother's checkbook, showing a check for Ethan Cooper that's worth $2,500. Before she can think about this, Ethan approaches her. But the event gets interrupted when a drunk Veronica crashes the party. As her revenge for Ethan breaking her heart, she reveals that he's been hired by parents to break up their children from their partners that they don't like. That includes her, Emily, Mitchell, and even the engaged lady. Ethan receives all manners of slaps from the ladies, and a gut punch from the groom-to-be. But the most painful thing is Emily's silence. After this fiasco, Ethan spends a few days in a dazed stupor. He's coming to a couple of realizations. First, love is not about removing annoying habits so the relationship will be perfect. Rather, it's about enduring those imperfections and recognizing that they are part of what real love is. Second, he's been a real jerk lately, so he wants to make up for the mistakes he's made. He apologizes again to Veronica, but she won't hear any of it. Next, he goes to Mitchell's house and pulls him away from a miserable dinner. He returns the check to Donna, then tells Wayne about a talented jazz singer performing at the Green Lady Lounge. He brings Mitchell in front of a store, where Trisha is already waiting. As he looks at the couple reuniting, Ethan thinks it's much better to bring couples back together than break them apart. Then he visits Emily in the lounge. He still misses her. He expects her to still be angry with him. But to his surprise, she sits with him. It turns out Ruth apologized to her daughter for meddling in her affairs. Ruth also revealed that Ethan never took the money, even before they all found out what he was doing. Emily tells Ethan that she's sitting with him because love sees past all the imperfections. Well, there's Ethan's second chance for his right love. 6 months pass, and many things have changed. Mitchell and Trisha are engaged. Sam and Lexi are now a couple. Emily is now a signed singer, under a record label. And Ethan has made a book about how to get past a partner's annoying habits. Indeed, a real relationship is far better than fantasies. And, as said earlier, perfect love doesn't exist, only the one that endures imperfections.